Hello guys and welcome back, and in this video we're gonna look at Python dictionaries. I'm gonna show you basically everything you need to know about these Python dictionaries. So anyway, let's begin. So what are Python dictionaries? Well, in real life a dictionary is basically a book, which I don't really need to explain this in detail to you because you already know, but a dictionary is a book, and it contains definition to certain words. So you can go out, buy a dictionary, and in that dictionary you can check different words, and it will show you their meanings. And similar to that, Python dictionaries do work in a similar way, but instead of the words, we have what we call keys, and instead of meanings, we have the values. Okay, enough with the real world example. Now let me compare it to something that we've already covered, and that's a list. So when I was talking about list, I said that when we want to when we want to retrieve a certain value in a list, we actually have to pass its index, right? But the way dictionaries work is that instead of an index, you use a key, and that key you assign it a value. So when calling a key, you can assign it a value. This is actually very useful. This is actually very useful because you actually have more control as to what's placed where. Because in a list you might know, okay, my value here, its index is so and so and so. But when it comes to dictionaries, you actually have control as to what the value is, what you call it by. So that's actually up to you. Okay, enough of that. How do you actually write a dictionary? Well, it's actually what I have here. So when writing a dictionary, all you have to do is you have to enclose all your information in these curly brackets. This is why you enclose all your information in the dictionary. And the syntax goes like this. For the first value, all you have to do is you pass in its key, as I said, and then you go space, then you separate by full colon, which is right here, and then you give it whatever value you want. Then when passing in the second value, simply just a comma, and then you can simply go there a second value, as you can see there. So I have two keys there. The first one is name, and the second one is age. So the key name is assigned the value waza, and the key age is assigned the value 16. And so if I run this code, what you will notice is that when I run this code, dict age will actually print out 16 there. So one other difference between these dictionaries and lists is that unlike lists whose indexes are basically just integers throughout, no matter whose programming or whose script you read, the index is always an integer when it comes to lists. However, in dictionaries, we can actually pass in a value that's not an integer, but we can use multiple data types. So what we can do here is that we can pass in 2, and what happens is that our key value of 2 actually has a value of 16. This mathematically does not make any sense, but we're not talking about mathematics here or programming. But as you can see here, when I pass in my key of 2, it prints out the value 16. And so basically this is basically just to show that unlike in lists, where we have a static index, which is static indexes which are only integers, dictionaries you can actually change that up. You can use whatever type of key value you want, be it a string, an integer, even booleans, floats. It depends with what you actually want. So that's completely up to you, depending on what program, what script you're writing. So next I'm going to show you some functions that you can pass with this, but first we'll have to just go over one tiny thing. Okay, so the tiny thing I want us to go over real quick is not something very important, but it's something useful, and you actually get to understand the way these things work. So what I have here are 4 variables, right? I have 2 lists, and I have 2 dictionaries here. And all I'm doing here is comparing whether the 2 lists are equal and whether the 2 dictionaries are equal. And when I print this out, what we see is that the lists are false, mean they are not equal, and the dictionaries are true, they are equal. So what does this actually mean? Well, basically, a list is ordered, and what this means is that when we're comparing lists, it will actually go through each index and then compare whether those values are equal to each other. And that means that that's why it's false here, because as you can see, the first value here of list A and the first value of list B, those are completely different. Henceforth, the entire list is different. You get, since this is ordered. However, when it comes to dictionaries, dictionaries have no order per se. Since, as I've already put it, dictionaries don't go by indexes, they go by keys. So when you're creating a dictionary, it doesn't matter what order you actually put your keys and values, as long as you assign them correctly. So what that's why for the dictionary it comes out true, because it's not comparing the positions, because dictionaries are not ordered, so there's no first value, there's no last value, there's no mid value. There's only a key value. So what's going on here is that it's only comparing. Okay, so we have key 1 here. Key 1 in my first dictionary is waza. Is key 1 also equal to waza in the second dictionary? Yes, so that's true. It also goes there. Oh, here banda 3 and also here banda 3, and that's how it compares. So this is one thing you should remember: lists are ordered, dictionaries are not ordered. This might seem kind of useless, but this will allow you to actually organize your data in a very powerful way, since you're the one creating your information. So I don't actually have to tell you how you order it. From what we'll learn in these videos, you actually get a sense of how you can actually do that by yourself. Yeah, so my duty isn't to actually teach you how to what to do, it's actually teach you how to do them. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go to the functions. Okay, so before we actually start looking at some of the methods in used with dictionaries, I first of all want to show you how you actually add something to dictionaries, because this will come in handy for you in future, possibly. Okay, so how do you really add something to a dictionary? Well, it's not like the way we were doing it with lists, where you can just use the append function, or you can just concatenate a value to a list, because this won't work here. Unlike, as I've already mentioned, unlike lists which are ordered, they already have a fixed way of ordering stuff, which is their index. Dictionaries only use keys, so you can simply just go a dict dot append whatever, and then you write whatever you want to add there. There's actually a set method there's actually a set way in which you add something to your dictionary. There are actually two, but I'm going to be showing you the easiest one. Okay, so when adding something to your dictionary, what you have to do is enter your dictionary's name, so in this case dict, and then what I want to do here is actually pass in a key. So a key that's not in my dictionary. So I have a key here of age, and all I have to do now is assign that key a value. And what will happen is that when I run this code, what happens is that the age is added to my dictionary here, and we give it a value. So this is the easiest way of adding something to your dictionary. You can use this in multiple ways, whether you're looping over your list or anything. And speaking of looping over lists, looping over dictionaries, how can we actually do that? Well, basically, looping over lists again, or looping over dictionaries. I'm so sorry if I keep on confusing these two things together. I mainly work with lists. Dictionaries take a sort of back seat when I'm programming. Okay, but enough of that. So how do you actually loop over your dictionary? Well, that's also not very straightforward, because there are a few ways you can do this. The first way, but other ways use either a while loop or a for loop, but I'm going to be using a for loop. So the first way is you can actually call the individual keys. And how do you actually do that? Well, dictionaries have a method called keys, as simple as that. And what this does is that if we loop over this, if we were to, let's say, just print dict.keys, all this would do is that it would print out all the keys, which are name and age. But I'm talking about looping over them. So if I was to print this out, so if I was to print out I, what will happen is that this will just print out my individual keys. So as you can see there, it prints out the key name and age. So how can you actually use this? Well, so how we can actually use this is basically assume what you're thinking. We simply just get dict here and then just passing I, since I with each iteration is taking the value of a key. And what this will do is that it will print out our values, so waza and 16. Okay, this is a long method actually. What if we only wanted to print out the values directly? Well, I'm glad you asked, possibly, because the dictionary also has a method that allows us to do that, and that's called values. So all you have to do is go dict values, and then what happens is that when I print that out, and as you can see, I'm just printing out I directly here, because this is actually going over the values, and you can see it's going waza 16. So in case you don't care about the keys, you only care about the values in the dictionary, you can use the values method, and this will do as I've said here. Sorry if I hit my screen, but this will do as I've said. It will just print out the values. Another way of doing this, although this will loop over every item in your dictionary, and this is as I've said, is basically the items method. So what does this do? Well, it's just printing out each individual item. So name was age 16, and it's actually putting it in what is called a tuple. A tuple is basically a list, but it's immutable. I'll cover a tuple next, possibly, but you can read about it online. It's pretty simple. It follows most of the basic rules that lists follow, only that you can't change it once you've added values to it and the like. Okay, so that is how you actually pull values, keys, and items from a dictionary. But say you wanted to add the other method of adding something to a list, and this is actually what we use a method called get. And what this is, just will print then dict dot get, and what this does is it accepts two parameters, and this parameter is our key. So I can pass in a simple key. Let me just say sir, and let me just give that a value of banda, and parameters, you separate them by a comma. Just give that a value of banda, and what this would do is that when I run it, when I run this, what happens that it should print out something. Yeah, so it prints out banda there, it prints out the key of banda there. But this works in two ways actually. What I mean is that, as you can see, this sir is not in my dictionary, but it's added there. But if I do get a value that is in my dictionary, so say in my key I use name and put banda, what this will do is that it will not print out banda, but it will print out waza. So that's how that works. Basically, the way this method works is that if a key is not in your dictionary, it will add that key and value to your dictionary. But if that key is already in your dictionary and has a value, it will only print out the value that's already in the dictionary and ignore this one. So this is basically like putting a fail-safe in there, an alternative thing to print. So that's how this is useful. So it's basically like you saying, if this key is in my dictionary, I want to print it out. I want to print out its value. but if it isn't, print this out. And that's how you use the get method. It's very simple, very quick. And another way of actually doing this is there's a method called set default. And what this does is that it will get your dictionary just like that, but okay, I don't usually use this one, but basically you can give it a key. So say color, and then just say black there, and what this will do is that it will give the key a value here, and it will set that key's value to black, so it has black. But this is one interesting thing that will happen. Say if I copy this, so Control C, Control V, and then I say it's white, right? And if I run that, what happens is that it goes black again. It's because we've already set a default value. We will not be able to change it. So that's how this works. So this gives it a permanent default value that we cannot change again. So we cannot change it again using a set default because it already has a default. If you want to change a value in a dictionary, I'm hoping I don't get this one wrong, but if you want to change a value in a dictionary, what you have to do is go print. Okay, so you have to get your dictionary's name, and then say I want to change age, and then let me do it like this, age, and assign it to 17. Then what I can do now is print dict, and what this will basically do is that right here I already have a value for my dictionary, but I want to change it. Say you want to change it later on, so why is this obstructing? Right, yeah, so as you can see here, I've changed the value in my dictionary. So this is how you change the value in a dictionary. You can change it later on. All you have to do is pass in that key and do this, similar to the way we're changing values in this. So at the moment, I believe I've covered basically all you need to know, the basics of what you need to know with dictionaries. Everything else is kind of applies to other data types, so I don't need to go further into them. But if there's any question you want to ask, please leave it in the comments, and I'll get back to you. And yeah, before you click away, please don't forget to leave a subscribe and also like the video, as it really helps support the brother. Yeah, so peace out, I guess. How do I exit this?